few seconds ago, everything was moving along as usual. And then, without warning, you felt your heart drop just a beat. Not exactly sadness, not quite joy, just something passing through, like water brushing the shore. Quiet, unexpected. Cancer has always been sensitive, but today, that sensitivity is no longer vague or blurry. It feels precise, almost deliberate, like a clear signal. Something you once tried to forget is knocking again. An old memory suddenly lights up. A person, a sentence, a dream, all of it returning, as if it were delivered back to you at exactly the right moment. And you begin to wonder, why do I feel this way right now? Why is something I thought was over showing up again, at this exact point in time? If you're listening and you recognize yourself in this feeling, then you may be standing right at the edge of a major shift. And to understand why your heart is being stirred so deeply, why your emotions feel gently shaken, we need to begin with the one thing that matters most. The moment Jupiter returns home, into the sign of Cancer, and the first emotional shockwave it carries with it. The flow of love for Cancer is quietly changing direction. Not loud, not dramatic, but strong enough to shake what once felt fixed and settled. Relationships are no longer standing still inside old patterns. They begin to move like the tide, drawing closer, pulling away, carrying emotions that feel familiar, yet strangely new at the same time. Cancer may notice this shift in small moments. A sudden glance that lingers. A message that arrives later than usual. An old name rising in the mind for no clear reason. This is not coincidence. This is the universe recalibrating your love timeline, slowly and with precision. Connections that once closed their doors may return and knock again. Not to reopen wounds, not to drag you back into the past. They come back changed, with a different shape, a different role. It might be an apology that was never spoken. It might be a chance encounter that shows you how much you've grown. For Cancer, each reunion is not only about seeing someone from before, it is about meeting an older version of yourself. And this time, you are no longer standing in fear or lack. You stand in understanding, in boundaries, in compassion refined by time. At the same time, other relationships quietly begin to fade. No arguments, no drama, just the feeling that the rhythm no longer matches. What once made you hold on no longer convinces the heart. Letting go has never been easy for Cancer, but now it happens in silence and in peace. Deep down, you know that holding on to limiting connections only blocks the flow of love. When a door closes this gently, it isn't loss. It is respect for both sides. The new timeline you are stepping into is not measured by years of knowing someone or the length of a relationship. It is measured by how real you allow yourself to be inside it. Cancer begins to see relationships through a different lens. You no longer ask how much you must sacrifice to be loved. You no longer wonder if you are good enough to be chosen. The questions shift inward, to something much deeper. Does this connection nourish peace inside me? Am I able to be myself when I am with this person? These quiet questions are rewriting the order of love in your life. At times, this change can feel confusing. A heart used to old patterns has to relearn how to trust. But even the confusion is part of healing. It reminds Cancer that you are no longer living on reflex. You are choosing with awareness, and that is a powerful step forward. Love is no longer a place to escape loneliness. It becomes a space where two people grow side by side, without hurting each other to prove anything. Relationships that suddenly move forward during this time often carry a sense of deep familiarity, as if two souls have known each other before words were needed. No long explanations. No need to impress. Just presence. For Cancer, this is the sign of true resonance. When love no longer needs a script, no longer needs control, only honesty, fully lived. And when you allow yourself to step into connections like this, you send a clear message to the universe. You are ready for a new chapter, one that is deeper, healthier, more aligned. This rewritten love timeline is not here to take anything precious from you. It only removes what no longer fits the person you are becoming. Each shift now carries a lesson. How to love without losing yourself. how to connect without dependency, how to open your heart while still honoring your boundaries. These lessons are quiet, but strong enough to change the entire road ahead. And as you begin to settle into this new rhythm, something subtle becomes clear. Your heart no longer chases unpredictable emotional waves. It starts to slow down, to listen, to hear signals that are small and real. In that stillness, another door begins to open. A space where emotions are not only felt, but reflected. Where each connection becomes a mirror, guiding you to understand yourself more deeply. Through the relationships now taking shape around you, as the flow of relationships begins to change direction, Cancer enters a very different emotional state. It's no longer just surface feeling, it's deep feeling. Very deep. As if every conversation, every glance, every moment of silence is reflecting something from inside you. At this point, the world around you is no longer just a place where relationships happen. It becomes a large mirror, quiet, but honest, reflecting even the smallest movements of your heart. Cancer may notice reacting more strongly to things that seem minor. A careless sentence is enough to make the heart sink. A familiar gesture can awaken old emotions. But this is not fragility. This is a sign that you are feeling with your whole being, without armor, without defense. As emotional intelligence expands, you begin to see patterns that have followed you for a long time. The way you wait, the way you stay silent when you need to be heard, the way you give more than you receive. This mirror does not accuse. It simply reflects calmly, giving you the chance to truly see yourself. In these moments, you may feel uncomfortable, because truth is rarely comfortable. But Cancer, this feeling is not here to hurt you. It's here to wake you up. Each time a strong emotion is triggered, it's a signal that something inside you wants to be acknowledged. It may be the fear of being abandoned. It may be the need for safety. It may be the desire to be loved without having to trade yourself away. These rising emotions are not obstacles. They are signposts, guiding you closer to what you truly need. The mirror of relationships also shows you how much you've grown. Things that once caused intense reactions now create only a small ripple. You can watch emotions come and go without clinging to them. This is inner awakening. Not controlling emotions, but understanding them. Not suppressing them, but allowing them to exist in a safe inner space. Cancer carries the heart of a caretaker. But this mirror gently asks a very important question. Have you been caring for yourself enough? Through each interaction, each connection, you begin to see your boundaries clearly. You recognize when you give from love and when you give from fear of losing. This distinction is subtle, yet profoundly important. It helps you step out of old cycles, where you were always the one holding everything together while your heart grew more exhausted. Inner awakening doesn't arrive with applause or dramatic breakthroughs. It arrives in ordinary moments, when you choose silence instead of argument, when you express your needs without guilt, when you allow a relationship to change form without clinging to its old version. These small choices are proof that you are listening to yourself more, trusting your inner sense more. And when you begin living from that inner truth, the world responds differently. Connections that no longer fit naturally create distance. People who truly resonate move closer without effort. This is not magic. This is resonance. When you are honest with your emotions, you send a clear signal about who you are. And the universe always knows how to respond to signals like that. In this quiet space, Cancer can feel a change that is subtle, yet profound. Your heart no longer reacts only to the outside world. It begins to listen to itself. And from that listening, another awareness slowly forms. Soft, clear, like an invisible current guiding you toward what can be trusted, where your heart belongs, and which truths deserve your respect. And as that invisible current becomes clearer, you begin to notice something unusual. Not every answer comes from thinking. Not every decision needs a reason. There are moments when you simply know. You know when to move forward and when to pause. You know when to open your heart and when to keep your distance. You know something is right for you, even if you can't explain it in words. The feeling isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. But it is steady, certain, like an underground stream moving quietly beneath the surface. From within, Cancer's intuition begins to awaken in a very natural way. It doesn't ask you to change who you are. It doesn't push you to become someone else. It simply heightens the sensitivity you've always carried, as if someone gently adjusted the frequency, allowing you to hear signals that were always there. Dreams become more vivid, not because they are strange, but because the emotions inside them feel real. When you wake, there's a lingering echo, hard to name, yet strong enough to stay with you throughout the day. In daily life, small signs begin appearing more often. A song plays at the exact moment you're thinking of someone. A repeating number makes you pause longer than usual. A stranger's casual words touch something you've been holding inside. Before, you might have dismissed these moments, but now, you don't rush past them. You begin to listen, not with your ears, but with a deep sensation in your chest. And the more you listen, the more you realize intuition isn't something distant or mystical. It's familiar. It's part of you. It was only ever covered by fear and the habit of doubting yourself. Cancer has always placed the heart at the center of relationships. But as intuition grows stronger, you no longer place your heart just anywhere emotion rises. You begin to feel the difference between true warmth and familiarity rooted in old wounds. Some connections bring peace, even in silence. Others keep your heart tense, even when everything looks fine on the surface. Intuition helps you sense this clearly. No judgment, no blame, just recognition. That recognition brings a unique kind of strength. Not the power to control others, but the power to protect your emotional energy. You start saying no without guilt. You choose to leave conversations that drain you without long explanations. What once made you afraid of disappointing others is now seen through a different lens. You understand that honoring your own emotions is also a form of honoring others. Because only by living honestly do you avoid creating false connections. With intuition guiding you, you become more sensitive to what no longer fits. Not through resistance or frustration, but through a gentle knowing that it's time to let go. Letting go isn't driven by resentment. It happens because you no longer need to stay there to learn an old lesson. Each time you listen to intuition and act on it, another layer of doubt dissolves. You begin trusting yourself more, trusting the heart's ability to lead the way. And within that trust, a new space opens, a space of clarity, where you no longer guess what others think of you or worry whether you're doing enough. You simply check one thing. Do I feel at peace? Intuition becomes your emotional compass. It doesn't pull you back into the past. It doesn't push you toward the future. It holds you steady in the present moment. Here, every decision carries the weight of truth. Every choice holds self-respect. As you grow accustomed to living under this guidance, a subtle shift appears in how you connect with the world. Everything feels slower, yet deeper, quieter, yet clearer. And in that stillness, you begin to feel supported. As if a gentle wisdom walks beside you, reminding you that you don't need to rush, you don't need to prove anything. You only need to remain where your heart feels safe and free to be exactly who it is. And when you remain in that sense of safety long enough, something very natural begins to happen. Old doors start to open again. Quietly. Without announcement. A name appears on your screen. A familiar face shows up in a crowd. A memory you thought was asleep suddenly comes alive, clear, and real. But this time, your heart doesn't flinch the way it once did. It doesn't rush to close. It doesn't surge forward on old instinct. You stay still, calm enough to see everything for what it truly is. The people from your past return without the power they once held. They no longer carry your emotions in their hands. They are simply pieces that once walked beside you for a part of the journey. And in seeing them again, you notice how much you've changed. The way you listen has shifted. The way you feel has softened and deepened. Things that once hurt you now exist only as distant memories, no longer able to control the present. This change doesn't need an announcement. It's visible in the calm of your eyes, in the steadiness of your breath. You may be given a chance to say what once felt stuck in your throat. Or you may realize that nothing needs to be said at all. Because sometimes, silence is the most complete answer. You no longer feel the need to seal everything with a perfect ending. You understand that some stories don't need closure. They only need to be placed in the right space within memory. And when that happens, the past stops being a burden. It becomes part of the journey, proof of how far you've come. The most beautiful part of this phase is how you let go. Not through hardness, not through cutting ties, but through understanding. You see clearly the role each person played, each relationship held, each emotion carried, and why it entered your life. And when that purpose is complete, you allow it to leave with respect. Letting go no longer carries deep sorrow. It brings relief. Like setting down a suitcase you've been carrying for far too long. Each release widens your heart. Not to hold more people, but to hold more truth. You become clear about what you deserve. You no longer confuse love with endurance. You no longer mistake familiarity for alignment. What isn't on the same frequency cannot stay, no matter how hard you try. And you no longer blame yourself for that. You understand that holding mismatched connections only exhausts both sides. A deep kind of freedom emerges now. Freedom doesn't mean needing no one. It means no longer trading yourself to stay beside someone. You can love without losing yourself. You can open your heart without abandoning your boundaries. The feeling is subtle. But once you touch it, you don't want to return to the old way. For the first time, love is no longer a place where you work to become acceptable. It's a place where you're allowed to fully arrive. When the past is placed where it belongs, the space ahead becomes clearer. You begin sensing new connections in a very different way. No rushing excitement, no excessive doubt. Just a quiet knowing in your chest about whether something nourishes you or not. That clarity creates a unique kind of magnetism. Not loud, but steady. Not flashy, but deep. In that quiet, a new kind of stability begins to form. Not the stability of stillness, but the stability of being strong enough to meet change. Your heart is no longer pulled backward. It faces forward. Not with longing, but with readiness. And in that readiness, a new rhythm of life opens. One where you don't just feel love, but understand how you want to live with it day by day, fully and in peace. And as that inner rhythm begins to settle, Cancer starts to recognize something truly important. Your heart is still as deep as it has always been. You still feel intensely. But you are no longer pulled under by every small emotional wave. You no longer react the moment something touches you. You pause. You feel. And then you choose. That pause makes all the difference. It marks the moment you stop living inside emotion and begin living with emotion like a wise companion walking beside you. This kind of growth doesn't make you colder. If anything, it makes your love warmer and far more grounded. You still feel moved. You still care. You still love with your whole heart. But you no longer let emotion lead you back down old roads where you once lost yourself just to keep a connection alive. Now you understand that emotions don't need to be controlled. They only need to be guided by self-respect and understanding. Cancer slowly becomes the one at the wheel of the inner world. When sadness arrives, you allow it, without self-blame. When joy comes, you enjoy it, without clinging. When disappointment appears, you listen for what inside you needs. Adjustment, instead of searching for fault in someone else. The way you meet your emotions feels mature, grounded, adult, yet it never loses its softness. And that balance creates a very special kind of magnetism. The relationships entering your life now carry a different energy. They aren't loud. They don't ask you to change just to fit. They arrive naturally, as if two currents meet at exactly the right moment. You no longer struggle to keep anyone close. Those who belong find their place effortlessly. Those who no longer share your rhythm move on without leaving the kind of pain they once did. Because you're no longer searching for safety outside yourself. You've built it within. Emotional sovereignty doesn't separate you from the world. It allows you to meet the world from a stronger foundation. You know what you need. You know where your limits are. And you understand that love does not mean unconditional self-sacrifice. As heart and action come into alignment, You stop saying one thing and doing another. You stop staying in relationships that require constant explanation of how you feel. That clarity brings relief, like taking off armor you've worn for far too long. A new cycle begins quietly. No dramatic milestone, no announcement. You simply notice that you no longer react the way you used to. What once caused anxiety no longer has the same grip. Situations that once kept you awake at night now pass through your mind and release. Your heart learns something powerful, that it can move through emotion without being drowned by it. And that trust becomes the foundation for every connection ahead. Love in this cycle no longer looks like compensation. It doesn't come to fill a void, it comes to build, together. Safety is no longer something you demand from others. It's something you carry with you into every relationship. Connection is no longer driven by fear of loss, but by conscious choice. You stay because you want to, not because you need to. And that choice is what makes relationships healthier, steadier, and more real. After living in this state for a while, a deep kind of peace settles in. Not the peace of perfection, but the peace that comes from no longer resisting yourself. You allow yourself to feel, and you allow yourself to move forward. You honor what has been, without letting it define what comes next. Your heart is no longer a place that stores unhealed wounds. It becomes an open space where emotions are welcomed, understood, and guided by wisdom. And within that space, you begin to move through life more gently, not rushing, not avoiding, simply living in your own rhythm, so that every connection entering your life rests on truth, on safety, and on a love mature enough to walk with you for the long road ahead.